Okay, I'm going live. Oh, Emily's joining. Hello. So happy to see you all for our second annual composer flute ensemble collaboration concert. And we have four wonderful composers with us who wrote four terrific pieces for four great groups. So without further ado, I will let more people in and turn it over to our wonderful USF composers. And first up is Joshua Adler.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Joshua Adler, and today on the concert, I will have a piece named Inside Crab Rangoon. I'll explain the title in a minute, but what I did for this piece is I created a series of matrices and determining different musical elements, and I kind of overlapped those and they repeated. It was just interesting to get the result. And the title is I just wanted to create something silly. So inside Crab Rangoon. So enjoy the piece. It will be delightful.
I think we just need to enable the screen sharing.
Ah, sorry about that. Always something. Uh, Under advanced.
Towards the bottom, there should be a security button, and you
Got
can
it.
hit. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for performing.
Thank you for writing for us. Could you talk
You're
about
welcome.
some of the extended techniques that you used?
So, since this piece was a serialist piece, because it's different series of pitches and articulations, so I didn't use too many fancy extended techniques, but I did use flutter tongue and different musical tacks and articulations.
Great. And one of the advantages this group had was rehearsing together, right? With a lovely backdrop of the outdoor scene.
Yeah, I was there for the final rehearsal, and like they performed it like really well. I was absolutely impressed. But now now we can go on to Hand's piece, which I'm sure will sound fantastic.
Thanks, Josh. Congrats on your piece. It sounded really, really awesome. Hello, everyone watching and tuning in. My name is Hitchen. I am a senior composer at USF. My piece today is a trio called Growing Pines. And this piece is pretty special because this piece was written for an telematic ensemble. So at no point did any of these performers work on this in person. They all were in separate parts. So two of them are in two different cities in Florida, and one of them is all the way in China. So it was a very fun and new process working with them and rehearsing this piece. It was a big blast, though. I had a ton of fun. And the piece itself, so it's based on the idea of growth and change, and how as we inhabit spaces like small towns and cities, they change and they grow over time. And as they change, while we might have moved into a small town that turns into a city, it may no longer fit our needs because the city has outgrown us and we have outgrown the city, the now city. So, and this is kind of represented by having some stark material at the beginning of piece and transforming it so that it gets busier to a point where it's not recognizable anymore. And I want to just quickly take a moment and thank Tommy, Gabby, and Miriam for rehearsing and playing my piece. And I think they did a wonderful job. And I'm super excited to share Growing Pines with you all now. Thank you. Thanks, y'all, so much. And again, thank you, Tommy, Gabby, and Miriam, for such a fabulous performance.
Thank you, Han, for writing this piece. We all enjoy playing it, so thank you so much, Han.
And thank you for bringing them together across the miles. Yeah. Great job. How did you all manage to rehearse?
We used soundtrack. Well, we had a consistent Friday morning Zoom meeting, so we couldn't like live rehearse, but we would just lay down our tracks and discuss it every Friday, and then edit it through, and went back and forth doing that, and then put the final project together with video.
It was really great, Han, too. We really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the process as well. Thank you.
Anything you want to add about some of the techniques you chose to use to represent your vision for it? Or
Sure. As the piece kind of progressed, how I wanted it to start, I wanted it to be kind of the start beginning where not a whole lot is happening. It's just air and key clicks. So it's not, well, it's noisy, but it's not like a lot of tone is being produced. It's just kind of very static and soft. And I just wanted it to kind of get busier as the piece went on. So later in the piece, we have, bisbiglianos and glissanos and flutter tones and stuff. But in the beginning, it's kind of these more sparse techniques. And I use different combinations of them to create different sound worlds that would build up and get more dense as the piece went on.
it came across well, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So I guess Jamie gets to talk next.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jamie, and I'm a senior at USF, senior composer. It was really an honor to get to write for Sarah, Joey, and Rachel on this piece. They were all such great collaborators, and I think we all enjoyed the process of writing a new piece and sort of talking about it, discussing its conception with each other. And anyway, what's interesting is how I'd originally intended this piece to be performed as an ensemble. Everybody recorded all together, and with COVID and everything that's been going on, we had some complications and decided that we wanted to actually record separately. And I think, that was, it's interesting how that affected the outcome of the piece, but I think it all came together really nicely in the end, and I'm really excited for this. Anyway, Recyclical, which is the name of the piece, is sort of an exploration into guided improvisation, and the piece is sort of structured into these segments. Each preceding segment introduces new material or recycles material previously, and these segments are sort of mixed and matched as the piece progresses. And I think it's really interesting what like the complexity of like the textures and the sound worlds that I can create with having this sort of element of improvisation. And I was talking to Sarah, Joey, and Rachel during our rehearsal, and they told me that they hadn't really experienced improvisation before in playing flute, and so it was a lot of fun, I think, to give them that opportunity to explore that and see what they could do with it. I hope you guys enjoy the piece. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all so much. This was an incredible learning experience, I think, for all of us. And I really appreciated the opportunity to get to work with the three, Rachel, Joey, and Sarah. So yeah, thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Jamie. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
Y'all did a great job. I'm wondering what you all think about the different video presentations. Is that having an impact on the pieces? What do you think?
Are you asking composers or
Just
performers?
everyone. Yeah, well, composers, I mean, as far as choosing to go back and forth from video frames versus the collage or...
Well, it's interesting because if we were to do this same concert without COVID as a restriction, these would have all been done on stage. I think we would have all been sitting in the audience, listening to these pieces in an acoustic hall. But what's interesting is that everyone's approach was different. We all had like some element of like, well, again, I didn't intend the piece to be performed recorded separately, so that was a sort of surprise factor. After our first rehearsal, that's what we decided would be best. But I'm really glad that it came out that way. And I don't think each of the performers had the opportunity to listen to each other's take before their performance tonight. So that there was that element of mystery when going into the premiere. So that was exciting, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it was mysterious for sure, a bit stressful as well, but also mysterious. But I thought it was really cool because when we met in person, we all decided together that it was kind of like our three parts were separate in a way, and they all came together to make the whole piece. So it was kind of cool, not really influencing one another and just playing our own interpretations. And then Jamie put it together beautifully. So I think the video, swapping it was pretty cool because I think the original idea was what's kind of the main idea here, have that person play, see them, that sort of thing. So it was a really cool experience, COVID permitting. So thank you, Jamie.
So it really became a quartet.
I think it helped add to, yeah. I think it kind of added with the cutting between people with some of the parts where it was meant to sound a little more fragmented. It kind of brought out the fact that it wasn't always meant to be totally together.
I mean, I think it emphasizes the physical separation that you guys had when you actually recorded the piece. But it's fascinating how the parts as a whole sounded whole, So it's a cool sort of contrast, but also it was sort of unifying in a way.
We'll have to do these pieces again when we can actually be face to face for extended times. Not just, here's the one time, let's lay it down. Yeah. But there are different aspects that this is highlighting, so it's great that we're flexible and running with the opportunities. So I think the pieces stand the test by being able to be in different forms. So that's the really cool thing. So finally, last but not least.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, sweet. So I have this final piece, Diablos, and I just want to say first and foremost, it's been really wonderful writing for Arlen and Caitlin. One of the best experiences is writing for your friends, and that's something that you get out of music school that you might not be able to get elsewhere. And in that context, this piece actually goes all the way back to my freshman year, where I wrote a piece with Emily called Overlay. And this piece, Dialos, kind of expands on that, where I'm exploring the idea of two instrumentalists that are sort of conjoined, where their music's really interactive and there's almost something improvisatory about the composition process and the performance. When I go and sit down to play my pieces, to write my pieces, I play flute, so I play a lot of the parts in and test out ideas and stuff. And with this work in particular, I was actually really interested in combining that aspect with my interest in ancient Greek music. The diaulos is actually an instrument based on the aulos, which is a double reed instrument that ancient Greek musicians would improvise with for like festive occasions and such. One thing that's super interesting about their music is that it's really microtonal, and there's a lot involving Greek rhythm that carries over to speech and things like that. And the word aulos is often mistranslated as flute. So I figured I could go two routes of writing like a really microtonal piece, but the word diaulos is actually from a single player playing two aulos instruments at the same time. They'll circular breathe and they'll improvise on both instruments in a polyphonic way, which is really difficult, I imagine, but also really cool. So what if I take two flautists and I link their music together to where they're connected, and throughout the piece, the range of the two instruments shifts together. There's no silence in the piece. So you get this sort of phenomenon that imitates the improvisation of a single player playing two instruments. Anyways, a lot of nerdy topics in there, but I hope you do enjoy. And I'll go ahead and play that for you.
Great job.
Yeah, Arlen and Caitlin, you two did an amazing job on that. That was a really great experience just writing it, and also being able to record it. This was one of the few pieces that was able to be sort of recorded in a at the same location but in a distance manner. So I was able to see Arlen and Caitlin for like the first time in months and months.
That was really great. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you so much for writing this, Josh. It was a wonderful experience to work on this.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Like, I definitely was like pushed out of my comfort zone, but it was very, very fun performing and learning all that stuff about myself, and kind of doing it with you guys is very, very fun.
Oh yeah, same here. Yeah, outside of comfort zone, I guess it goes both ways. I try to practice those techniques myself when I go to write them, and I'm not practicing as much as I used to. So it's definitely great to have you two realize this piece, because I couldn't have done it without you two.
Since you're the flutist in the composer crowd, is it fair to say that you have things in your ear that you really strive to imitate, with the software or your pen, versus being able to execute them on the flute?
Oh yeah. So in the composition process, a lot of the times when I'm writing flute pieces in particular, I try to really focus on doing things not in Sibelius, doing it paper and pencil, but also recording sort of like just on my phone or in a DAW, these little snippets. So there's a lot more involved with me playing things, trying it out, and layering stuff on top of each other, seeing what works. I did that with Overlay. I played the opening figure myself. I did that with Volution, the flute ensemble work, where I really tried to really get in my head and in my hands what I wanted and separate myself from my usual composition process. That being said, I've heard from people when they write for their own instrument, there can be a lot to live up to. There's so many great flute works out there and a lot of great composers. So I think the more that I can separate myself from my typical composition practice and focus more on my ear and my playing, the better the piece turns out for both flutists and as a piece.
That's really interesting to hear. I'm surprised by some of it. Anyone else? Are you surprised by any of that? And composers, how do you tend to go about writing?
Well, there are sort of like two ends of this. Two ends of this. Josh plays flute, so it was really easy for him to sort of like practice through these things and audiate, what he wants. And at least for me, there was a lot of research, that went into like different sounds and techniques. I mean, it's really great because actually Josh, Han, and I all live together. So if I need to hear something on the flute, I could, stroll up to Josh's room and say, "Hey, can you show me what sputato sounds like?" And he can just whip out his flute and show me. And so yeah, it's a lot more depending on sort of like existing resources to hear these sounds. And the more you write for the instrument, of course, the more you can sort of trust your ear and trust that what you're doing will sound the way you want it to. But that's my experience with writing for flute.
There's this handy dandy book that I have had since my freshman year, and I have it on my desk right next to me. The Tillman Denhart, you can't see because my stupid Zoom background, but it's there, I promise. It's this workbook that has a ton of extended techniques in it, and I love flipping through it and just being like, ooh, what's that? That sounds cool. And then going on YouTube and finding examples of those techniques, or having, like Jamie says, hearing Josh do them and being like, oh, that's cool. How do you do that? How do you notate that? How can I implement that? So it's definitely one of those processes where with each instrument I write, I always think about what sonic possibilities there are through extended techniques and not extended techniques, And I also try to think, even before I start writing any kind of material for the piece, just pre-composition, like, okay, this piece, not necessarily what it's going to be about, because not all music is about stuff, but having like this sort of large scale plan and seeing how I can implement these sounds that I'm interested in into that plan.
It's all very interesting. Joshua, what about you? Was this your first flute piece? I'm just curious.
So in the past, I wrote, for my freshman year, I wrote a flute and marimba duo. So that's the only experience I had previously with writing for the flute. Actually, come to think of it, when I was a community college student and taking composition lessons, I wrote a woodwind quartet that included the flute. But other than that and the flute marimba piece, I had no experience writing for the flute. So of course, when I was writing this piece, I considered my previous experience for writing the flute and like Han said, thinking about sonic possibilities and of course technical possibilities with the flute. That's actually something that influenced me as I was realizing the series that I used for composing the piece, because obviously there are some things that I felt were technically impossible for the flute, or not impossible, but very difficult. So I modified it a bit, but it was interesting writing this piece because this is my first time writing a serialist work, and whenever I compose something, I try all sorts of different compositional approaches, and this piece wasn't any different.
I'd love to add in. I really think this project is also amazing because I tried very hard to find some newer flute duos, flute trios, and it's very tough to find that instrumentation out there for like this type of music, this kind of style. So actually having these pieces done can really contribute to the larger flute literature, and also provide us with valuable feedback for these things. I've played very few flute duos, and especially very few that had so many extended techniques. So this was very helpful for me, even being a flutist, since we're in the U.S.
Well, this is all really interesting, and I've learned a lot just listening to you all and through this process, and I really appreciate all the hard work everyone put into this. So, and congratulations to each of you for your playing and for your composing and the art that you created. I'm really proud of you all for doing this. We didn't have to do it, but your gifts to us are very valuable and meaningful, and we really appreciate it. So I hope that we can continue collaborating despite the distance.
Definitely. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I definitely have enjoyed this project, and it's actually inspired me because in a couple months, I am planning on writing a flute solo piece. But if any of you want to collaborate with me on that, just let me know. Send me an email, or Facebook. You can contact me through Messenger. But I would love to work with another flautist on that piece when I'm writing it.
That's awesome. Well, the music world is small, So this is your community. And congratulations, everyone. I'll officially end the stream, but you're welcome to keep talking. Thank you all for tuning in. We got a lot of people in the chat. Thank you all.